Okay, so now that we know what a linear operator is, let's just extrapolate that a little bit farther. So recall that a linear operator will take a vector from this space V and move it into space W, and we just call that A just to give it a label. But what if we had two operators? Can we do this process twice? And so the composition of B with A. And so let's just state this really quickly. Suppose that V, W, and X are all vector spaces. So you see we have vector space V, our familiar XY coordinate grid system, vector space W, which looks pretty similar, but it's been tilted about 45 degrees or so. And then vector space X, which has two axes that I'm calling Y double prime and X double prime. And instead of being 90 degrees, they're kind of squished together a little bit, but this is still a very good set. This is still a perfectly legitimate basis set. And so suppose that V, W, and X are all vector spaces. And we have some linear operator A that takes you from V to W. And so we could say, A is the operator that takes you from V into W. And likewise, B is the operator that takes you from W into X, right? So B is the operator that takes you from W into X. Well, then the composition of B with A, in other words, to get from V to X all the way without this intermediate step in between, it's really no difference from, so going from V to W, that's the same thing as A being applied to the V vector, right? And so we can think of this as a whole new vector on its own. And then to move it from there to there, we're applying B separately in front of it, right? So this notation, so we're applying both B and A operators. This notation tells us that operator A is acting on the vector first, and then operator B is acting on the vector. So all of this to say that yes, you can combine linear operators, but just to be careful, the notation here, the operators operate in order from right to left. So A operates first and then B operates. And so to get from V all the way to X, we went from V to W using A, and then from W to X using B. That is the composition of operators.